Thank you for joining me today for another episode on the Anchored in Messiah program right here on HRN Revive TV. Today's episode is titled, Are We Sharing the Gospel or Shredding the Gospel? This will be part one. The questions we need to ask ourselves when sharing the gospel is one, are we being diplomatic or dogmatic? Are we being intentional or random? Are we doing it with a generous spirit or a terrorizing spirit? Are we doing it with love or loathe? At the end of the day, you and I will be known to others by how we share the good news of Messiah. People will know us exactly by how we represent the good news. And this phrase that I'm using, shredding the gospel, in my own definition, is doing it with an attitude, a puffed up spirit, or a know-it-all mentality. Or in other words, being too arrogant with your approach. We must try to avoid conflict when sharing the gospel by trying to create common ground with others. And that doesn't mean you have to discount what you believe in, but find something that both parties can agree on, and then you go from there. In Proverbs chapter 15 and verses 1, it reads, A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Although we may have good intentions and feel responsible about what we know and are learning and are very excited about sharing it with others, but the way we deliver our message could be a bad delivery. There can be times, if we're not careful, that our tone could sound too aggressive. So people will know us by how we represent ourselves on the job, in the marketplace, and most of all, on social media, especially social media. And social media is where I believe most keyboard battles can occur over just about anything. And the things that we want to share may be the gospel truth and have great significance, but we have to be wise enough to know if it is spiritually profitable and uplifting to those we are sharing it with. So we have to ask ourselves this, is it going to build up or tear down? And we have to know, is it truly the individual we're concerned about or just proving points? Now, don't get me wrong, social media platforms do serve a great purpose for sharing the good news and opening up a dialogue of different subjects, but if not done in love, then it can be taken too far and things can get out of hand very quickly. So we just need to do whatever we're going to do with kindness, politeness, and respect. So please don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying don't deliver the message or share the good news. That's your business. But what I am saying is have enough discernment to know whether or not your message is spiritually profitable to those who are listening. So it's imperative that we are wise with our words and our approach and do it with tact. But when we're too aggressive with our delivery or the message, we will find it hard to reason with others. If this is the case, then they will not want to hear what we have to say, and that's when people get hurt, which can cause friendships to be destroyed and so forth. And as you already know, most of the time, social media dialogue that go wrong will just make great entertainment for others. And this particular session, this presentation tonight, isn't based on social media. This is just one of the outlets that many people use to share the good news. I'll say this again, and probably even more times, we have to be intentional. And if not intentional, then we could be spinning our wheels. In Acts chapter 18 and verse 4, reads concerning Paul, and he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath and tried to persuade Jews and Greeks. In this verse, we see the word persuade, and there are a few different meanings for this word, but the one I feel is fitting for this presentation would be this. Persuade would mean to make friends of, to win one's favor, gain one's goodwill, or to seek to win one, or to strive to please one. So our goal isn't to see if we can convince people into something that we believe in, but rather convict them by allowing the Holy Spirit to work through our lives in order to work in their lives. So to persuade someone in this verse doesn't mean to be cunning or tricky or crafty or even go against what you and I believe or water down your faith. In other words, I see it as trying to gain one's trust by building a greater level of integrity with that person, by being accountable and dependable and making them feel as if they can trust you and have confidence in you, which will lead to deeper spiritual discussions as you build on your friendship. In Proverbs chapter 25 and verses 15, it reads, "With patience a ruler may be persuaded, and a soft tongue will break a bone." Also in James chapter 1 verses 19 through 20, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God." So when sharing the gospel, we must maintain a self-controlled spirit, but not rushing that person too quickly, but do it with patience, because being too hasty is never good. And if you're anything like me in the past and probably in the future, if I'm not careful, we can lose spiritual balance and fumble the ball and mess things up. And from there, it seems like things go from good to bad in a hurry. Sometimes I've learned that just listening to someone is better than responding at times. I suggest responding only when it's the proper time to do so and asking questions. However, we must reason with a genuine heart and with good intentions, whether face-to-face or on social media. Let us do it with love. If we are doing it through social media, just remember this: you can't hear the tone or the voice behind that screen or text, which can sometimes be very vague and send the wrong message. Also, we must have the gift of discernment when it comes to spiritual matters and having these types of discussions. So we must know when to back off or diffuse an issue before it escalates. And remember to do it lovingly. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verses 4 through 7, it reads, "Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things." So we must consider that we can diffuse or escalate a conversation depending on how we handle it. We can try our hardest to win them or wow them, whichever one you prefer, but however, we should be leading and making disciples. This means we should be shining a light and not trying to show off what we know with our knowledge. If we do it with an attitude, it will only lead them to stubbornness. So let us be intentional with our motives. And please note that we're not building battleships here. Instead, we should intentionally be building friendships with those willing to hear what is spiritually profitable, since faith comes from hearing and hearing through the word of Messiah. So just that I'm clear, I want to emphasize that I'm not saying that we shouldn't be sharing the Torah, Yeshua, or proclaiming his feast. We just have to be careful how we share and what we share that may not be profitable to those who don't know Torah, or to those who are young to Torah, and lastly, the ones who don't believe in the gospel at all. So this will conclude part 1 of this presentation titled, "Are we sharing the gospel or shredding the gospel?" And I hope you have enjoyed today's teaching and can apply this to something in your walk as you share the gospel with others as you go about your way. So please join me next time for part 2. Until next time, shalom.